Welcome to Regular Talk. I got a special guest on the couch. I see why this guy's name is Grind Mode because he puts the grind in the mode. Always been himself. Always been a great guy. Every time I see him, it's something positive he's doing. He's always pushing local music. I wanted to welcome my guest, Dion Dupree. How you doing, sir?
I'm good, my brother. Thanks for having me.
Hey, man, no problem, man. I built this platform, man, just for people like you that I'm fans of, people I like to see grinding, who inspire me. So I want to hear their journey, man. So let's start from the beginning, man. Tell me about your childhood.
Oh man, my childhood was overall it was good, man. It came with its challenges and things of that nature. Being a product of a single family household, dad not around. My mom did what she could to hold me and my sister down. So early in childhood, we moved around a lot. We lived in a lot of different communities: Homewood, Wilkinsburg, Garfield, East Liberty. But Homewood was home. So anytime things got rough, we ended up back at Homewood. And so with her having to work and being a young mom herself, I came to find out a lot about my family as I got older, which explained why a lot was going on, as a kid. But I kind of just had liberty, you know what I mean? Like, she raised me on philosophical models. For those of you who don't know what philosophical models are, those are like you reap what you sow, like little sayings. You make your bed, you got to lay in it and stuff like that. So, she always made me like understand that my decision making would lead to the outcomes. If I wanted to have positive outcomes, I need to make positive decisions. And if I didn't want to have positive outcomes, you just deal with the consequences of that. She did what she could with me. I was a wild child, so with not having a father in the home and being hyperactive and involved in a lot. She got me involved in sports early, so I started playing baseball at 9. Started playing football at 10 years old too. Always loved basketball, so I did the YMCA and the little pickup leagues and stuff like that. Always running around, and I was just able to like build some great relationships and rapport with kids from all over the city. Because I played baseball on the hill, I played football in Homewood. When the gangs hit, I still had those relationships, so I was kind of blessed to be able to navigate those communities without getting too caught up. But yeah, man, childhood was what it was, man. We made the best out of it.
How were you as a student? Let's say 5th to 8th grade.
5th to 8th grade, I would say 5th grade I was great. You know what I mean? I was at Belmar, real good student. 6th grade was a transition for me because that was my first time getting exposed to like white kids and different cultures and stuff like that because I went to Schiller. And that transition from 5th grade going into 6th grade, I kind of found myself getting a little more being a little more comfortable in myself. So I was a little wild, you know what I mean? I was a little nut, making noises, acting silly, drawing negative attention to myself and things of that nature. Wanted to be like, the class clown and things of that nature. So, a lot of the teachers, they thought I had problems. So they wanted my mom to put me on meds and all this stuff here. And I ended up getting kicked out of Schiller in 7th grade for fighting too much. Got into a lot of fights and stuff like that. And ended up going to Reisenstein. And in Reisenstein, I think I just kind of checked out academically. I had a teacher that told me that I was worthless and wasn't going to amount to nothing. And I kind of like detached mentally from the academic side of things. And again, it was a cultural shock as well because there's a lot of multiculturals there. And growing up in Homewood, you just around black folks, you know what I'm saying? So, getting that exposure, I wasn't quite ready for it. And I just wilded out. So academically, I never really put forth the effort that I could. I did enough to pass, but I didn't work as hard as I could.
Let's go pre-sports. I always say like your 9th grade years, like when your character starts to build. So walking in Westinghouse that 9th grade year, how was that?
Walking into Westinghouse 9th grade year was like, it was crazy because first and foremost, my family all graduated from Westinghouse. My mom graduated from Westinghouse. My uncle was working at Westinghouse. So I always was around the school. Mr. Webb, Coach Webb, he actually, when his son was playing football, they would take me to the games. I remember going to the Riverview game where they played Riverview and stuff like that. So I always was around some element of Westinghouse, coming up throughout the years. So Of course you hear the war stories about, how dangerous it is and how you going to get beat up and all this stuff here. So my mom had told me, she's like, yo, if you want protection, you got to join a football team. If you join a football team, you're going to be protected from all of the stuff that you hear going on or whatever the case may be. So going into my 9th grade year, of course, I went to, summer practice and made the team or whatever the case may be. At that same time, I kind of felt like academically, I was in a better place to perform. So I did really, really good my 9th grade year. But my behavior was off the chain. I think I made like straight A's on my report card, but had all U's in behavior. And so I was kept off the honor roll because I was wilding out in class. But I would get my work done so quick that last 30 minutes was just showtime for Dion.
How was your first introduction? I know you said you knew him prior, but how was your first introduction with Coach Webb and Coach Dill on the field at summer practice?
My first introduction to them was just real. I mean, I don't think they did anything different to me that they did to anybody else. You know what I mean? Like, even though I had a rapport with Coach Webb prior to coming into the school, because he and my uncle was close, so I would be around and I would, go over to the house and stuff like that. And Miss Webb, I want to say she was like my the lunch teacher in Belmar or something like that, like a lunch aide at Belmar. So I had prior relationships with her. And so, but he didn't use that as a way to pamper me. It was just like, you got to do everything everybody else is doing. That was my first exposure to men. And what I mean by that is, like, my family, they kind of pacified me and let me get away with a lot of stuff. I really didn't have, no stern male figure in my life until I got in 9th grade. And that's what Webb and Dill ended up being. More so Coach Dill, too, because Coach Dill, he took me under his wing. I don't know what he saw in me, but he saw something in me, and he kept me extremely close. And, the cuss outs, the physical aspect, like everything they did to build up your mentality, I experienced that, hands on. But like I said, dealing with that and overcoming those challenges helped me to be able to overcome the challenges I deal with as an adult.
Give me some of them dogs you was playing with.
Oh man, when I first got into high school, Keno Fitzpatrick was the quarterback. My dude Al Dog was the running back. You know what I mean? I'm trying to think. Sean Yancey, Frank Lockett, like, they came in my sophomore year. Yancey was already there. You had Boulders, Cameron Broadus, Aaron Justice ended up, being a quarterback after Keno graduated. So yeah, Mo came along. Io, like the big dogs are the big dogs. Taebu, right? El Radius, right? Shoot, I don't want to miss nobody. Donald Kidd, like there was like the whole team for the most part was dogs. Like, when it was all said and done with, that like you couldn't make the team if you didn't have that dog in you, and they either they instilled it in you or you walked away. So I would say, Big Nate. Trying to think, Tito was down there for a minute. He had a stellar year on a JV squad as quarterback for a while. Yeah, man, it was just it was just the who's who. It was the who's who.
You mentioned gangs earlier. How was it like? You like in that original era. Like, how was it seeing the banging form back then?
So. It was rather unique in the sense of, we all had our ties to our blocks, right? You know what I mean? Before the gangs hit, you had D Train, which was like Homewood's posse, and the posses was the thing in the 80s and early 90s. Well, actually late 80s. By the time early 90s hit, it transitioned into gangs. So when you seen the sets start to pop up, really it was just kids that was playing on the block. You know what I mean? If you lived up Hilltop, and that's where you was at, you became Grape Street, Moeller Projects. If you was down Dallas, and that's where you was hanging out, you became Dallas Ave. Orange Brick. If you was, on Hermitage, you became Lime Street. You was on Lane, you became Deuce 5. You know what I mean? Sterrett, if you hung up on Sterrett, you became Sterrett Street Crips. Like, it was really just people who were already in those areas. You know what I mean? And they just, came up with the gang sets from there. And then when Colors came out, it kind of like gave you a visual of like how to bang, so to say. And there was really nobody telling you what to do. it was just kind of like figuring that shit out. And being as though Homewood was Crip sets, in Crips everybody had their own little individual set, and it was wild because you watch friends turn to enemies. You know what I mean? You watch people who otherwise didn't have any problems with each other end up establishing problems just based off of the area that they lived in. You had the down bottom going at it with Hilltop. And I used to live up Hilltop for a long while. That's where I lived at when I was born. I was up there for like the first 6 or 7 years of my life. So a lot of those dudes, we were cool with. And my grandma stayed up there, and I would still go up there and visit and stuff like that. And so being on that, I lived on Hermitage and was cool with them. I would spend time up there with them, but then that would have us problems with Lane, which was right there. We were on the corner of Hermitage and Lane. And mind you, G-Lump, not G-Lump, my bad, Fat Fred, Flip and all them, they was all my peoples. Like, we all went to Belmar together and again reconvened at Reisenstein and stuff like that. So, to end up having problems with dudes just based off of who you associate with, it got deep. So we ended up, merging our team. So it was Moeller, Hermitage, and Dallas, you know what I mean? And, between those areas, that's where we kind of navigated.
I want to transition. Did you go to college?
Yeah, I went to Slippery Rock for a year.
Okay, how was that experience?
Again, one of them cultural awakenings. Being up there around all them white folks. That college for me was a like reality to like discipline, how important discipline was. So being in college, you don't got nobody to wake you up. You don't got nobody calling you, telling you got to come to class. You don't got nobody calling your parents saying they didn't come or whatever the case may be. And with that much freedom, I didn't have the discipline. So when I got up there, my first semester I did pretty cool. But after I realized, I could go to sleep in class and hit a tape recorder and the professor wouldn't say nothing, I would record my classes and fall asleep. And then it just got to a point where I wasn't even going to class. And again, I was a knucklehead. So, I'm cutting funnies, I'm joking. You know what I mean? I got people wanting me to come to their dorms and hang out with them. Funny story, my roommate, he grew homegrown at his farm, homegrown weed. So he would bring up like so much weed to the school, and we would end up taking that shit and selling it. So we would go to other schools, and sell weed and stuff like that. So I wanted to pledge a fraternity and all that stuff there, but I just didn't have the discipline. So we ended up smoking. I was smoking weed and shit like that. So we was coming out the woods one day and ended up getting picked up by the police. And the dean, I had to meet with the dean, and the dean told me, he said, I'm going to give you two choices. Either, sit out for a semester, or, we're going to move forward with these charges, because really you just taking up space. Like, he looked at my attendance and, all that stuff there. And so I ended up coming back home. And so when I got back to Pittsburgh and started seeing like everybody pretty much still doing the same thing, people in the same positions, I just wanted something different. So I ended up getting myself back in school and started going to CCAC. And so I kind of was, financing my way through school through unfavorable activities, but I wanted to do something better with myself than what I seen other people doing.
Why do you think they don't push college like they used to?
In all actuality, bro, I kind of feel like it's a mind screw. You know what I mean? Like it's a mind fuck at the end of the day. College ain't for everybody, and everybody don't need college to be successful. And that narrative wasn't putting out there. It wasn't being put out there. Everybody's telling you that you need to go to college. You need to go to college. And what I've learned in my experience, what I call the human experience, what I've learned is like, you look at the American dream. It's all driven to institutions, right? And so, in order to go to college, you have to get a loan. In order to buy a house, you have to get a loan if you don't have the money to pay for it up front. So they tell you need your education to live the American dream, right? But you got to go to these banks to get financing that type on this crazy interest that you end up paying off, paying for, for a long period of time. So you're paying 3 or 4 times the value of what you're getting, based off of, the way the structure is. And so I think people wisen up and realize, like, there's other things that you can get into, the arts, the media. Definitely need to learn a skill. Definitely need to learn a skill in order to be able to be compensated well for what you do. But I don't think you need college in order to do that. And so I think the narrative my belief is that the narrative that's being put out there is being driven to be able to help the rich stay wealthy, right? So if I'm giving you a loan to go to college and I'm giving you, you're paying $30,000-$40,000 a year to get your degree, you come out, you get a job making $70,000-$80,000 a year, you still got to pay back that loan. That bank is getting that money back plus interest that you're paying over a long period of time. Then you go buy a car, you're getting another loan. Then you're going to go buy a house, you're getting another loan. All that money's going right back to the elite while you're struggling, trying to maintain and have the so-called American dream. So even with my own children, I didn't push college on them. I pushed success on them. I pushed finding out what it is that they're passionate about, learning how to do it, be great at it, and sell it.
Oh, I want to get into grind mode, man. So tell me, what is grind mode?
So, Grandmo basically is an entertainment company that I started. I started out as a management service that I was providing to DJs, but it evolved so quickly based off of my relationships with people outside of the city that just opened up other doors and resources. So, as it stands now, it's a distribution company that focuses on management, distribution, advertising, promotion, marketing, and branding. And on top of that, it evolved. I ended up getting a radio station, so we got Grandma Radio Live, recording studio, multimedia facility where creators can come down and create their content, whether it's recording, making a podcast, doing photo shoots, and things like that. So it evolved based off of the roadblocks that I ran into with working with independent artists and things of that nature. People would not want to do an interview because somebody didn't know who this person was. So it was like, all right, we're going to build the platform. We're going to give you the opportunity to let people know who you are so it can open up that door, in the future. And so the different roadblocks that I ran into, I just built out myself. So Grandmo just actually represents the mentality of what it takes to be able to be successful at what you do. You got to buckle down and get in grind mode. You know what I mean? It's the way of thinking, no matter what it is.
I want to say I reconnected with you. I know you was this is 2 weeks in a row. Shout out my dog Skelly. You was managing Skelly. So how hard is it to manage a person like a rapper? Let's take it for example for a rapper. What did you pretty much have to cover? Because I know that got to be exhausting.
It's very challenging managing a rapper. I think the biggest challenge in it is the lack of information that a lot of artists have in regards to how the business actually works. And what people don't realize about me is before I opened the doors on providing the services that I provided, I read, I got trainings, I had mentors that's been in the music business for over 30 years. I learned what was necessary, what are the proper steps to be able to take, because believe it or not, there is a blueprint, there is a roadmap to success. And I think that when independent artists start realizing how much it costs to actually make stuff shape, if they don't have somebody else putting up the money, then you're only going to kind of get but so far. And being in the role that I'm in, knowing that on this level of the business, this is what these folks need to be able to make it happen. In order for that to happen, I have to convince them that you're worthy enough of them being able to open up that channel for you, or that resource, or that outlet. And a lot of times it costs to be able to make that happen. And so artists, a lot of times when you start getting into the money side of it, either they don't have it or they have it and don't want to spend it. And that kind of puts me in a very what's the word I'm looking for? Delicate space on how to navigate that, because what I try to get people to understand is I treat everybody's dollar like it's my own dollar. I'm not going to tell you that you need to spend money on something that you don't need to spend. I'm not going to tell you something is worth spending it if it's definitely not worth it. And I think building that trust between myself and artists is probably the hardest challenge to kind of overcome. But when I do have that trust, with the artist, Y'all seen what I was able to do with Bunny the Kid. Him and I collectively made a lot of stuff shake, and he opened up a lot of doors for the company, being willing to put that money up to establish those relationships, to be able to get on This Is 50, to get signed to Sony, to be able to get millions of views and get performances out of town and different things of that nature.
What will make you turn somebody down from managing? Like, do you have to like their music, or could it just be strictly business?
No, I honestly, I kind of feel like for me, it was really important to just be able to provide the opportunity. So many companies, so many record labels, all that stuff there, that's what they do. They want the cream of the crop, the best of the best, the elite of the elite. And if you're not good enough, they're not interested. They're not going to tap in with you. They're not going to let you do whatever. I seen a lot of people not being able to crack that threshold because their talent wasn't getting the notice that they needed. So no, I don't just look at you know, just anybody. I'm open to working with whoever's willing to put in the work. And even when it comes down to talent, practice makes perfect. I've seen it happen on numerous occasions where anything you're willing to do, as long as you're willing to put in the work to get better at it, you'll get better at it. So who do I look like telling somebody your music isn't good enough for me to work with, when I have the resources to say, okay, this is where you are, this is where we need to get you, these are the steps that we need to do to get your music elevated. You know what I mean? And as long as they're willing to put in that work, they're going to automatically get better.
Why don't we have a whole bunch of outlets like Grandmo, or like what Button Pusher was doing? Like, why don't we have a whole bunch of local outlets?
In all actuality, we do have the outlets. What it is that we are not working in sync. A lot of people here have this me, myself, and I mentality. So what they have going on, that's what they stick to and what they focus on, instead of looking at being able to come together and create like a funnel, so to say. So the reason why I built out the way I built out was based off of my travels and my experiences in other cities. So when I'm in Atlanta and I'm watching media houses and I'm seeing content creators come together, they're doing events, and they got radio, they got video podcasts, they got promoters, they got DJs, they got all these people willing to show up at this event, that's put together to curate for artists, so artists have an opportunity to network. Whatever differences, whatever they're doing, they put that aside to be able to come together. And that's just one of the things that we don't do a good job with here, is willing to come together. We have multiple online radio stations. We got multiple podcast platforms. We got multiple, creatives such as yourself that can help create the content. But it's just not all being worked collectively in sync. We have the DJs, like for again, using Atlanta as an example. They got the Coalition DJs. The Coalition DJs do New Music Mondays. So they allow independent artists to come down, network with other DJs in the Coalition, outside of the Coalition, tastemakers, all that stuff there. And people sacrifice their time to be able to have that opportunity to find new talent, meet new talent, and things of that nature. Here, people aren't always willing to sacrifice that time.
I got this segment I just started, man. It's called Random Questions.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to ask you a random question. And this is the big why I always got. And I'm about to kind of start running a campaign on it. Why don't the DJs play local music?
All right, so
consistently too. I'm sorry, I mean to cut you off. I mean, not when the rapper come in. I'm talking about on the regular and rotation.
So it's a two. There's two parts to that, right? There's two parts of that. From my experience, I see a lot of DJs playing local artist music. Excuse me. I see a lot of support for local artists as well. It's quality. It's the quality of the music. And I think that okay, so coming from a DJ's perspective, when a DJ's getting hired to play in a club, that promoter, that club owner, whoever is paying them, is paying to keep their crowd interesting, entertained, and in the building. So if the DJ's playing local music and the people aren't aware of that local music and they're not feeling it, ultimately they're going to say that DJ is trash, we're leaving. That owner then is not going to want to book that DJ again for future opportunities. So the music has to be good. The music has to be something that people are you know, listening to and partying to and things of that nature. So when I hear cats playing Trap House Yik, Fed to God, of course Jimmy Wapo, and there's a lot of other artists that's music that gets played by these DJs. It's the people's reaction to the music that makes the difference. So if that DJ is getting the reaction from the crowd and that owner or that promoter or whoever's paying them for that night is seeing that, they're going to continue to book them for their events and things of that nature. So it's a catch-22 from the DJs because, you know, anybody could walk up to a DJ and ask them to play their music, and if it clears the dance floor or if it's a buzzkill, that reflection isn't on the artist. That reflection is on the DJ. People are gonna look at the DJ and be like, "Why are you playing this? That's trash." Like, "Oh my gosh, we're leaving," or whatever the case may be. And so now that DJ gotta, you know, deal with the consequences of that because now it's being reflected in their bookings. But I will say that DJs, these newer DJs, don't understand the importance or how to break a record because there are things that DJs can do to hype up a song that make people pay attention to the song, to get people interested and involved in the song. And again, there's blueprints and roadmaps to everything that I'm saying. So you look at like Funk Flex and DJ Clue, DJ Envy. These were DJs that got their start from breaking records in clubs that they were playing. And Funkmaster Flex was notorious for playing the same song 8, 9, 10 times in a row until people, you know, caught on to it. You know what I'm saying? And we all know music is repetition. The more we hear something, eventually we're going to start repeating it. Even if we don't like it, we're going to start repeating the words because we've heard it so much. And that's one of the models that the music industry uses on radio. One of the reasons why you hear the same songs over and over and over again on radio, it's not on accident. It's not because the record is a hit. It's because the record labels have invested that much money into the radio programming, so it gets played that much that it becomes on the top of your mind. You hear it so much that you want to now hear it there and you want to hear it here or whatever the case may be. It's all on a psychological aspect called top of the mind awareness. TOMA. So TOMA is a practice that, you know, people in music use to keep you thinking about something. It's on the top of your mind. They also use it on social media. Top of the mind awareness, top of the mind awareness. That first thing that come to your mind, that's what you're going to pay attention to. And so music is driven like that. So if DJs kind of took more pride in breaking music, I think you would hear a lot more local artists because some people's music is dope. Some people's music is really, really, really dope.
I agree. I'm gonna put you on the spot, man. Give me your Mount Rushmore of all time Pittsburgh local rappers.
Mount Rushmore of all time.
The four, right?
Time. Oh shit, this is hard. Tuffy, Mailman, Black Seas, and I would have to go Jimmy Wapo.
What do the city got to do just to become more like, I guess I would say mainstream? Because like I said, we got dudes like Boaz. We got dudes like Hardo. Like, I don't understand how I don't hear Hardo, Boaz, certain people on the radio. And then where I go, I mean, if I'm in Visions, wherever I'm at, I don't understand how I don't at least hear them all the time, but I'll hear Lil Yachty.
Right. So I think that First and foremost, when it comes down to Pittsburgh, we got this crab in the barrel mentality. And in order to be affected by the barrel, you have to be in the barrel, right? And so for individuals like Hardo and like Boaz, the one thing that I love about them is that they didn't let any of that stop them from doing what they do. And making things shake, you know, moving into other cities and building their careers up in other markets and getting fan bases and things of that nature. I think ultimately what it's going to take here in Pittsburgh is for, first of all, the radio station, you know what I mean, the program directors over at WAMO to understand how important it is to be tied into the culture, not just giving local artists 1 day a week, 1 hour out that week, you know, to have their music played, but being more involved in the music. When you look at Hot 97, when you look at 87.7 Streets, you know, in Atlanta, or is it 97.7 in Atlanta? 87.7 might be in Virginia. 97 is in Atlanta, I think. But if you look at the involvement of radio stations in other cities, they are 100% involved in the music landscape, the independent landscape of that city. And we don't have that here. So there's no representation of who's who and what's what popping through the radio. So you're not going to hear local artist music on a radio unless it's coming through a radio program, a radio programmer or a radio promoter. So that means it's being serviced by either a label or independently, where you're hearing a song in rotation because that song is being worked through by a radio promoter. So it's being opened up in different markets or whatever the case may be. The DJs, again, it's the DJs just being aware of, like, what's hot, like who's hot, and having the courage to play it and break it. Hardo and Hemi's new project is ridiculous. You know what I mean? That is ridiculous. Skelly has been ridiculous.
Been dope.
Been dope.
That's my goat.
Been dope. And the even with my, like, Mount Rushmore of Pittsburgh, I kind of went with, like, those who opened up the door. You know what I mean? For whatchamacallit, because there's a ton of people, like the three we just mentioned. Hardo, Boaz, and Skelly definitely could be a Mount Rushmore. You know what I mean? Of this current era. There's so many dope artists here in the city. And I think that until we have presence at radio, and until the DJs and the media outlets start working together collectively, we're going to stay like we are. And we're not going to crack that mainstream threshold that we could if we did collectively come together.
You see some young guys you want to work with?
Some young guys that I want to work with.
Or that caught your attention, that you just like their movement?
I'll be perfectly honest with you. I'm not even going like BS in this interview or anything like that. I'd be so caught up on what I have on a plate. Different people come down my path or whatever the case may be, like the young boy B-Dop.
What about Hippie? I love Hippie.
Hippie.
I love
shit.
Hippie.
Hippie is absolutely, that's little sis. That's little sis.
I think she's phenomenal, man.
Yeah, she's right there. Even Loke, you know what I mean? He's dope. You know what I'm saying? Like TT Iraq. Yeah, there's the link up, like Lincoln, like Cat's been putting on, you know what I mean, for sure. But there's some younger dudes that's up and coming, that's been doing some dope shit as well. I'm just bad with names, like MGD, I believe it is, or whatever. I think he's in jail right now. And like I said, the homie B-Dop. There's some cats that's making some noise, but I have so much on my plate that I'm consumed with, that I really don't have an opportunity to tap in all like that. So it's more like who brings different people, to me. That's how they get on my radar. People don't realize I don't be on social media for, like, entertainment purposes. I post what I post and I'm off. I might do some scrolling and do some research or something along those lines. But outside of that, it's more about, promoting whatever it is that we got going and whoever it is that I'm working with and putting their stuff out there. So I'd be lying if I say I was all the way tapped into, what the new movement and what youngsters is out here, making the most noise.
What's the ultimate goal for yourself and Grandma?
The ultimate goal for myself is just, again, I love being able to have the autonomy to be able to travel and do what I love. So my personal goal is to continue to be able to maintain that lifestyle, being able to, make people's, dreams come true, whether it's throwing a big party, whether it's getting their music out on major platforms, whether it's seeing their videos, hit certain numbers, whether it's getting, the attention that they're looking for, whatever the case may be, just exposing people. That's like my ultimate goal, is just to continue to be able to provide those resources to those creatives who deserve that shine. I don't believe in marginalizing people. I don't believe in saying because this person is more popular or got more money or got better music that this person down here don't deserve to be able to have that same access. And that could be a thinking error on my part. That could be a hindrance, to my growth and development. I've been told on numerous occasions by my peers in the music industry that I waste a lot of time on people who's not going to put in the work and things of that nature. And I need to stop doing that. But I just have such a big heart that if somebody tell me that they're looking for something and I'm able to do it, I'm going to do it. So the goal for Grind Mode is just to continue to open up those doors, continue to build relationships in other markets that I can pick up the phone and say, hey, this is Baby Egypt. He's another one. Baby Egypt's going crazy right now. Here's this opportunity for you to perform here. All you got to do is get there. Let's go make it happen because I got the relationships with these folks in this city, or this state. So let's go make it happen. So the goal is just to continue to build out the network, continue to build strong relationships with people, keep it 100, and just do what I do.
My brother, I appreciate you, man. You didn't have to do this, man. I appreciate you pulling up on me, man. You're a wholesale legend out here. You're pushing the Pittsburgh culture. You're opening doors. I love to see what you're doing, man. I wish you nothing but the best, man.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Have a good one. Say no more. That's it.
Yes, sir.